Hello and welcome to Surveyor Says, the podcast from the National Society of Professional Surveyors. Each week, we bring you fascinating guests that are involved in the profession of surveying. We cover a lot of ground, including Table Lay Talk with Gary Kent, Point of Order with the NSPS Joint Government Affairs Team, Future Focus, highlighting current and future leaders of the profession, and everything survey-related in between. Thanks for joining us here on the podcast, and hope you enjoyed listening to this episode of Surveyor Says. Hello, and welcome to this episode of Surveyor Says, the NSPS Podcast. I'm your host, Tim Burch. This week's episode is From the Director's Desk, and since we're between guests and between some producing of those episodes, we thought we would bring you a little bit of news from the surveying world, both domestically and a little bit abroad. The big thing that's in the news these days is the proposed legislation that the U.S. House of Representatives put out back in March. It's called Countering CCP Drone Act, and it's House Bill 2864. There is not a true companion Senate bill at this point in time, but there is language that's similar to the House bill that's been inserted into the fiscal year 2025 defense bill. We're expecting that, there is a potential that the Senate will put together a companion bill, but either way, this legislation is being pushed forward. And long story short is that it is trying to ban a number of popular UAV brands that are out there that are used by surveyors, used by a lot of people in the general public, by construction companies, by a whole bunch of different individuals. Basically, they've gotten popular because of their price point and their ease of use. However, that is also part of the problem, that the speculation, and at this point it is pure speculation, that these various models of UAVs are collecting data and sending all of this data back to the Chinese government and or the Communist Party of China. This is all pure speculation. It hasn't been proven that it's happening or not, but the fact of the matter is that the U.S. House of Representatives put together their House bill. They've been bugging the Senate to do the same. They've gotten the Senate to agree to include this language in the defense bill. So it's going to go forward regardless. And the bottom line is that these are popular UAVs. They have basically lowered a price point to where the entry into UAVs has become a lot more affordable for a higher caliber of people that want to use them. And we'll get into that a little bit. But the question is coming back around to NSPS, to some of the state associations on the national security that is, the potential of this information going back to the Chinese mainland, whether it's staying with the actual manufacturers, going to the government, whether it's going to the Chinese Communist Party. Either way, the potential is there. And we already have one state, Florida, that has banned the use of these UAVs at any and all government levels. It hasn't done that necessarily for the private user, but anything that involves public money cannot use these whatsoever. And so that's part of what they're trying to accomplish at the federal level. I get it. I understand the national security part of it, and I applaud them that if this is something that is truly a possibility, we have to err on the side of caution and do this. This isn't the first time the federal government has gotten involved in technology and has banned something that is potentially been sending data and information back to the mainland China. In, like I said, companies, the Chinese government, to the Communist Party. In 2018, began a series of actions that have banned various cell phone brands, including Huawei and ZTE, which are two incredibly popular brands in Asia, around the rest of the world, but are not available in the United States simply because the possibility of the technology was there to transfer data from those devices directly back to the companies and to mainland China. So there is a precedent for this type of a ban. It's probably going to happen. Whether or not the surveying profession and everybody that's involved that owns these brands of UAVs, we can try to fight it, but at the end of the day, it's going to be national security, and it's something that's going to happen. What I've been told by various owners of company owners and UAV users, that, you know what, we should err on the side of caution, and let's move on. Even though that there is a more limited availability of U.S. and other country yet and approved UAVs to use for this type of work, we need to move on. That if the possibility is there for surveillance, for data oversight and manipulation by foreign entities, we can't take that chance. So, for what's a greater good, this legislation is going to happen, and we're going to have to comply with it. However, I will say this is being a little short-sighted on the surveyor's part and wanting to fight this, wanting to move forward and try to take it back to the legislation that, you know, you're going to hurt our business, you're going to hurt our profession. What's even more hurting our profession, my fellow practitioners, is the use of any UAV by a non-licensed, non-qualified person that's out there providing services, whether they're, you know, broadly promoting this or not, or word of mouth, or however. There's many instances in which the non-licensed, non-professional, non-trained, non-educated person is using that price point of these UAVs to buy the hardware, buy the software, and offer their services in lieu of a professional service that a land surveyor, professional land surveyor, and even photogrammetrists, a certified photogrammetrist, can offer. That's part of where this is my call to all of you out there. This is what we need to do to promote ourselves to the public, and the value of having a license, having the education, having the experience, having the body of knowledge on what this equipment is actually doing. You know, the one simile I always try to give to people is, yes, because the cost of entry into this is so much lower, that there an opportunity to buy this equipment, buy the software, and produce these things. If that same opportunity was available for, let's say, GNSS receivers, laser scanners, total stations, robotic total stations, if that price point was that much lower, there would be a whole lot of people out there buying it and trying to do the same things, and we would be just as up in arms with that situation. So don't let the fact that this UAV cost of entry, software cost of entry, and the fact that people can do this because it's simple to use, that doesn't take away from the fact that it still takes a level of competency, a level of ability and education to be able to provide the services of what the data that this equipment and this software is spitting out. We've got to me, the shining example is the lawsuit that happened in North Carolina. There was an individual that had bought the equipment, bought the software, and promoted themselves as being able to do this type of work, being able to create 2-dimensional and 3-dimensional maps with geospatial data. Yes, literally anybody can do that now. However, there are licensing laws, there are requirements. And the fact of the matter is that it's one thing to use this equipment for taking aerial photography and other recreational uses. Anytime you're turning this around and using photogrammetric or other remote sensing types of modules to collect data, that is venturing into something that someone that is licensed and trained and educated and certified to be able to put out. That's the difference. That we don't, I guess, to me, I always try to liken it to the medical field, that what happens if, hey, what if the barrier of entry and the cost of buying an MRI machine was low, and all of a sudden your neighbor had one in his garage? Well, would you go and have him do a scan of you to just say, yep, this is what's going on in your body, this is what's wrong with you? No, the cost of entry and being able to push the button to operate something it's not the equivalent of competency. And so please, let's do a better job, surveyors. Let's get out there. Let's tell that message. We have this public persona issue with who we are and what we do. We need to be able to demonstrate to the public why it is that we are who we are and why we do what we do. No different than engineers, doctors, lawyers, any professionally licensed occupation. We have that right to be able to promote that. And so we need to do a better job out there of promoting who we are. So while, yes, there's going to be legislation, we're going to have some of these toys, these UAVs, eventually eliminated from the marketplace. UAVs are here to stay, and the expansion and the capabilities that they continue to grow upon with these UAVs are only going to expand, going to keep going up. That does not mean that it should infringe onto professional services. So let's get out there. Let's do a better job of who we are, what we're doing, and promote our profession the best we possibly can, because it's important that the public understands why these high-tech toys, the way they're used, the way they collect data, the way they're used to analyze various things with the software that's incorporated with it. It's very important that these are done by trained and educated, certified, licensed professionals to do this work. So, appreciate you taking time to listen to me go on about this. Just wanted to let you know what NSPS is doing. We're watching this very closely on all fronts, and we're here to protect the public, but also protect your profession, because as there becomes fewer and fewer of us, it becomes more important that the public understands who we are, what we do, and why it's important to always work with a professional surveyor. With that, if wherever you listen to these podcasts, please hit that subscribe button, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you. You've been listening to the Surveyor Says podcast, brought to you by the National Society of Professional Surveyors. If you have any questions about today's episode or any other topic, please email us at info@nsps.us.com, and we are here to help. Visit our website, nsps.us.com, to learn more about our association, the programs we administer and support, our sustaining members, and information about future episodes of Surveyor Says. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify, as well as our podcast host, Podbean. And remember, it's a great day to be a surveyor.